This is an Ielts test simulation. My name is Alex. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Simone and I work in marketing and I do acting and presenting alongside that. I also do a bit of freelance copywriting. So a lot of what I do in my day job as well involves writing. So I do like to be creative and I guess always make sure that I'm doing that every day.
Cool. So we're going to begin with part one and we're going to talk about your family. So I've got a couple questions to ask you.
Yeah.
So do you have a large family or a small family?
I would say I have a large, complicated family. Yes, I've got an older sister and an older brother, and a younger brother and a younger sister. We do live all over Australia, and my dad is actually overseas. So, yeah, it's quite diverse, and I won't go into all the little details because it's a bit complicated sometimes to explain to people, but yeah, we're all pretty close.
Great. Can you tell me something about them?
Yeah, for sure. My dad lives in Batam, which is off the coast of Singapore. So it's a small island. It's an hour on the ferry. My mum actually lives down near the ocean in Inverloch. So it's a beautiful town. And yeah, my older sister is a nurse. My younger brother and my older brother are in construction. And my younger sister is in pathology. So yeah, we all, I guess, have different career choices and live in different places. Yeah.
How much time do you manage to spend with the members of your family?
It's a little bit hard at the moment, but I will try to see one of them generally every few weeks. It's a little bit hard, I say that, because my family do live in all different places. So I usually try to catch up with one of them at a time, and that might be having a brunch or it might be going to a cafe, depending what is open at the time. So yeah, and then my dad lives overseas in Indonesia, so I usually catch up with him every few years actually, which is not very good, but it's just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What sorts of things do you like to do together?
I think I already mentioned going to a cafe or having a brunch. I love doing that for my sisters or my mum. My brother generally always wants to go to the pub and have a beer. Same with my older brother. So we'll generally do things like go to a concert or, go to a pub in St Kilda or something like that, pretty chilled out. Yeah, and when I catch up with my dad, he loves to go out for dinner and have a wine. So.
And do you get on well with your family, and why?
Yeah, I get along really well with all my siblings. We are all very different. I think it's been good for me having older brothers and younger brothers and sisters, just because we are also different in our personalities. And growing up, maybe when we were younger, we did argue a lot more. But now I think we all have this understanding of each other and really support each other's dreams. So I find I'm pretty lucky because we are so different, but everybody is so supportive of our choices. So,
Great.
yeah.
Moving on to part two, I'm going to ask you about a teacher who has influenced your education. So I'm going to ask you where you met them, what subject they taught, and what was special about them, and explain why they were able to influence you in the way that they did. So I'm going to give you a pen and paper so you can take down a couple of notes.
Thank you.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, take it away.
A teacher that really influenced my life was Mrs. Calander, and that was throughout my drama classes, and she also hosted or helped run our Rock Stedford events, which I'm not sure if they run in Australia anymore, but they were really amazing. We would come to Melbourne from this little country school and compete with all these other big schools on stage and have this huge show. And the reason she really influenced me is because she really embraced the performing arts. She was the leader of the school for really getting everyone involved in any type of performing arts program we could. And I found her so influential because, for example, in 2000 when the Olympics were in Australia, they actually hosted the soccer in Melbourne because they said that the ground wasn't good enough in Sydney. And we were a really small country school, but she actually petitioned for us to dance at the opening of the soccer ceremony. And I was one of the people that got picked to dance. And growing up in a small country town, that was a huge thing for me to do. So I was always really grateful. She always encouraged all the students. She always pushed, she saw a bit of talent, or she saw someone might be a bit shy, but she knew they wanted to do performing arts. She always encouraged them and was always that reference for someone that was really wanting to chase their dreams. And 3 of the people that I grew up with have become really successful directors. One of my friends is overseas in New York. He's a cabaret star now. And we are friends on Facebook, and whenever one of us shares something, she's the first person to comment and write something encouraging. So she has become a really close friend of mine now. And yeah.
Fantastic. So let's move on to part 3.
Sure.
Thank you. So for part 3, we're going to discuss developments in education. So how do you think education has changed in this country in the last 10 years?
I think in the last 10 years, especially having an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old niece and nephew, I can see, like, when I went to school, we didn't come home with iPads and laptops, and especially now with doing a lot of homeschooling throughout this pandemic, I've noticed that they have just been so quick to really get into that routine and to jump online and to Zoom call their classes. And that's just something that was just unheard of when I went to school. And I've noticed a big difference that they are just always on something, some type of app or platform. So when they're at school, they're using technology and they're using a laptop or they're using an iPad. When they're at home, my sister is trying to get them off the iPad because she doesn't want them to obviously sneakily always play games. I've just noticed a big difference. They are so advanced, and I just don't know if I would have been like that at that age.
Yeah.
It's really changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what sort of changes do you foresee in the next 50 years?
Well, in the next 50 years, I still think that, I know AI is out there and I know that there's all these advancements in technology, but I still feel that we are people and we love to interact with other people and humans. So I still think there will be that need to have human interaction, but it is seeming like there's a lot more things going online, and we can see that with, shops, and you can see it with like so many types of online services, and even working in marketing, I can see the changes happening. And it's hard because there's a lot of people who obviously don't feel that comfortable, especially the older generation. But I can see that, I definitely can see education going more and more online. I know when I was at university, actually, you could choose to go to a lecture or listen to it online, and I would like my sleep, so I would often miss the lecture deliberately and listen online. So, and that was years ago, so I can't imagine what it's like now.
How do the expectations of today's school leavers compare to those of the previous generation?
I think when I guess thinking back when I left school, it was very expected that you went to university, even if you had no idea that that course was right for you. I did go against that and I always knew that I wanted to do performing arts, and I didn't want to go to university first. I couldn't see anything I wanted to study at university until later on. But I think today, I feel like it's very similar. I look at my niece and nephew and I would say they probably are expected to do the same. But then I also know that my niece is playing basketball professionally right now, and my sister is very supportive about that. She has been asked to go overseas, but she is only 13, and my sister just said that's too young, especially to be away from her family. But I feel like my sister, she always says that, she will support my niece doing sport and any type of performing arts if that's something they were interested in. But she does want them to, I guess, focus on school at the same time and still make sure that they finish year 12 and have the education side as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like my sister's probably very supportive. My family were not too fussed. I pretty much just did what I wanted to do, and there was not really a lot of question around that. Yeah. But I did feel like there was an expectation maybe in society that I did feel a little bit that I was going to do performing arts and all my friends weren't. So I did feel a little bit different in that area.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
on that note, what role do you think extracurricular activities play in education?
I think they play a big part, but it depends on the person and their passion. So, for example, like I know for my niece, she's only 13, but she's very mature, and I know she has said to us before that when she's playing basketball, she thinks of nothing else. She's just in this zone. So it's like her form of meditation. And I know for anyone who sings or does performing arts, it's a similar thing. It's like this creative outlet. So I think it's really important because we need that balance in our lives to feel happy in other areas. And I know for myself, I love my job and I actually would do it for free. I love marketing, but I've always known that I've had to have the performing arts in my life as well, because without that, it's like my soul isn't being filled up with that creativity.
Great.
Yeah.
So speaking about different styles and methods of teaching, what method do you believe works best for you? And how important do you think it is to group students in level of their academic ability?
Oh, that's a good question. I think first of all, I'll answer the first question. I think the style that works best for me is definitely being interactive with people. And I think that everybody learns very differently. For example, in year 11, I did feel I did a lot better in my classes, and in year 12 I had different teachers and my grades went down. And I look back at that now, being older, and I look at my teachers, and my teachers had a massive impact. And it was because I do feel that some teachers are better at seeing a person's ability, but saying, okay, well, the way I'm teaching for them, that just doesn't work. They're just not learning the way that I'm teaching them. And so I was really fortunate in year 11, my English teacher was actually a drama teacher, and I did so well in English. And then when I went to another teacher that I didn't really gel with in year 12, my English went completely down in grades. So I do really think that it's the style of teaching, and that students shouldn't be pigeonholed into certain categories. It really should be about, okay, how does that person's brain work and what works for them?
That brings us to the end of the Ielts test simulation. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. It's great.